Yeah, thanks for joining tonight. On Monday, I just I just realized this morning that I thought um, I thought I was be, when I was traveling. I'm traveling on Wednesday, and I thought I was going to get in earlier than I am, and so there's a chance that I may not be able to make the meeting. So we're going to go over this today. And this week we have illusion of space and illusion of motion that we're going to cover. So this is kind of fun that this design, go down to the vanishing point and take a left. So what we're really talking about is as we design things to bring in the illusion of space, even though this is really just two-dimensional, but we're creating these images, creating these paintings so we can show depth, so we can show space. And so there's several different techniques that we can use to show depths. And so here's size, where the closer things are, the larger they are. But this is also, we've just got the horizon going on way back there. And so, and you'll notice the people are smaller here than they are in the foreground. So here's abstract shapes, but once again, we're trying to show, uh, this artist is trying to show space. And so these smaller objects are appear to be farther away. And then this is an interesting perspective where we've got size, where we've got obviously close up of this fish. So we're close up to that, but then we can see other fish that we are assuming they are the same size in the background. And then we see mountains and everything smaller. So each one of these, this is what we're talking to when we're talking about size, is the things that are closer or larger, things that are smaller or farther away. So, so now this is an interesting idea because these guys are all the same size, but they've just got things overlapping. So we're creating that illusion of space by overlapping. So we've got someone right here in the foreground, and then we've got other things covering up these people that are farther back. So once again, here's another example of overlapping. So it creates the illusion that this one is ahead of this one in the back. Once again, the same painting that we see where we just see the sky and the fence is here and it's just a little bit smaller in the back. And then on this one, we could make the argument that there is some space here. So this is vertical location. We're looking at the things that are closer or down at the bottom of the page, and then the other people are farther away, are at the top of the page, even though these people don't look like they're a whole lot different in size. So similar thing here, we've got the people that are on the blanket are closer along with these other objects and then that are down at the bottom and then farther along. Similar here, these are all, so if you're making a collage, you could do that same type of a thing where these are really not proportional to these other objects by where they are. Because if this was really on a window, this would be much smaller than if we had something on the foreground that we're taking a picture of right in the front, but it's still creating that illusion of space through the placement. And then here, say this is aerial perspective. This is Yosemite Valley. You can see Half Dome in the back. And so here, the things that are closer have more detail, and the things that are farther away have less detail. So as an artist, if we understand this, we add more detail to the objects that are closer. We make things smaller. We fade things out as they less detail as it goes towards the back. So here again, this is a closer up view, but this is still the aerial perspective. Because if you think about where this was taken from, this person would have had to have been, the artist would have needed to be on a ladder or maybe even in a second story to get this view of what's going on right here. So this one is different, showing different perspectives through elevation. So this is, we're looking at something right on. We're looking at the top of the structure here, and then we have a different perspective here, so you can see what it's going to look like. Neither of these give a very good distinction of what the three dimensions are, but then we have this here. We'll talk a little bit more about perspective. So the linear perspective, this is showing, this is, we talk about the vanishing point or 1 point perspective, where there's just the 1 point in the background. And they talk about this parallax. You may have heard this, kind of a fun term in video games, where the scenery is changing based on where the perspective of the player is. And so the parallax is not happening right here. It's just like we're right in front. If we're going to move to one side or the other, then the whole uh, painting is going to change. And something that I just found out about this week, somebody was telling me about The Mandalorian. If you've seen that show, that the I think all of it was shot on a soundstage, from what I understand. And I'm gonna have to look this up because this seems amazing to me. But they would they were projecting in the background what the environment was, and it would change as the camera changed. As the camera moved, the the background would change. I'm not sure how they did that, but it's an interesting thing because his suit was made of chrome. It needed to do that, and so, but this is kind of perspective, and so they're creating illusion in there of space and depth in the Mandalorian, where by moving the background around. So here's another one with vanishing point. And this type, what I think is kind of fun about this particular type of art with the vanishing point is it makes it easy, and there's a it makes it easier to create. Let's see if we've got. Oh, here it is. This Leonardo da Vinci. So he's broken this up into the squares with a vanishing point in the background, and then he can build the whole scene based on where these lines are going into the vanishing point. It makes it really easy to set up, like these stairs and the roof and everything is all of these lines are pointing to the vanishing point. So you just have to match those up, and then you can create that really good. Thanks, Guy. So, so it's really interesting to see that you can create that perspective fairly easily with this 1 point perspective. Here's another one. We see the vanishing point, but it's easy. It's actually easy to copy these types of pictures with the 1 point perspective because you can draw the lines. Interesting here that they've pushed that in. So the next thing to talk about is the 2 point perspective. You can see going across, we've got lines that are heading to the right and lines that are heading to the left. And with this 2 point perspective, once again, the perspective is off of the page. But if you get those, if you figure out where those are, then it becomes easy to make everything look so much more realistic based on those two perspective lines. And so it's showing here building those lines to those perspectives uh, out in the distance. It's another 2 point perspective. So what is what also can help out is this 3 point perspective, more complicated. But here's this photograph you're seeing, and we will show you. Here's another one with multi-point perspective, and these are more complicated, but you can really show depth well with these multi-point perspectives, and it shows here where those perspectives are out in the distance. Here's another one that shows. If any of you played Minecraft, this reminds me of Minecraft. And then we have amplified perspective here. So it's interesting how large we can make this individual look just because of the camera angle. So here's multiple perspectives. We've got whoever is the largest in these pictures is the most important. And then we have the smaller figures who represent other groups. Get a multi-point perspective here. Just to show depth in these pictures. More complicated, however, and I am not going to pronounce that right. But this is basically, it's funny, the asconometric projection here, but it's really just diagonals that they're creating the space using these diagonals. To me, this is a type of multi-point perspective, but they've got this extra, where they've got the X, Y, and Z axis. What's interesting is if you're doing 3D design, you will need to understand this X, Y, and Z axis. Just this. There's some. There's an online software that I've been experimenting with. You can. So we'll just do this shape. Put the shape out here, and then you can move the plane around where that is, and then you can extend. Now, the interesting thing about this Tinkercad, it's from Autodesk, and Autodesk does this. Well, they do AutoCAD, which has been around for a long time. When I say long time, like 40 years, long time. But they also make or own the software that they do the DreamWorks movies with. It's just called Maya. Well, it's super complicated, but this is less complicated. And the fun thing that I found out this week is you can take the 3D models from here. Now these are in millimeters, these squares. So these squares are like 1 centimeter each. But you can create things in here, and then we can move this up. You can put these together. So now this is the same object. So if you stretch this, the cone will stretch at the top, make this larger. But the kind of fun thing you can do is you can export this and send it to, there's several Salt Lake County libraries you can send that to, and they will print this 3D model out for you. So, but this is just the, see, we've got that, they're showing the Z, Y, and X axis here. And let's change your perspective. So you can build things in here and then have the libraries print them out. So open and close form, I'm not as familiar with this as I am with some of the others. So so this open and close form here, what's interesting is what we're seeing is just a small, this I think is the best example where we're just seeing a small portion of the action that is going on. But we know that these are feet and this is connected to a person and they're in some larger space. And then transparency. So here, so the overlapping here, so they're just showing the transparency. But that can also create the illusion of space, is this transparency. And it's as they talk about the different things that we can do to create that illusion of space, just simple things, you know, less detail in the background, more detail, size, all those different things will help us create that illusion of space. Here's another illusion of space that we've looked at this one before, but you can see how it's a lot less detailed in the background. And some of this, I think, is the artist is bringing into the concept that there's probably some weather that will help out with that too. So we're also talking about illusion of motion this week. covering 2 chapters. So just different things that we can do. Like these lines, we're just assuming that this car is moving. And then with the face of the so it's just interesting here. We see the water, and the water, the milk is moving. This one I wanted to find out. Just interesting perspective there. So again, it's fun to see these photographs where people are moving in the photographs. Where once again, we're creating the illusion of motion. So we're anticipating things happening here, but that's also part of the illusion of motion is so this one is saying we're suggesting the motion here. Here we've got the cartoon just moving us through the telling us the story when we're really actually not seeing any motion. Fun, Calvin and Hobbes. So here's where we use blur to show motion. Except this one is not blurred. This is just the way these are built. Interesting. Because this one doesn't look like to me that it's moving, except we figure that it can go fast because of the way it's shaped. Multiple images. News, new descending a staircase. It's funny. I've seen it says it's Philadelphia Museum of Art, but I swear I saw this in New York. And some art that's really famous, like this one, they will move around to different museums. New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. And this is interesting. And I don't know if you can see this, but it appears that that there's flashing white and black dots. Can you see that through the video? or through the share. Just that's just interesting how it's such an optical illusion. This one is fun too. You start to look at this and the lines start to move. It's interesting that our brains just it's hard it's hard to figure out what to focus on, and then stuff starts to move. Oh, so that's it. That's why we're doing two this week. So space and motion are just some things that. So we're doing a project on the illusion of space, and I've seen really simply well done versions, and I've seen really complex, not so well done versions of the illusion of the space. Um, and I've watched students take a lot of time with this because they really enjoyed it, and so it's kind of fun to explore some of these concepts in your own projects. So I appreciate everyone joining on short notice on this Monday. So obviously we're not going to be here on Wednesday. I will show up if I can. I may show up late, but we'll still have this posted for everyone to watch who didn't wasn't able to attend this evening. So thank you so much for joining tonight, and we will see you all next Monday. So we're going to do this again next Monday because once again I'm traveling next week. So thanks everybody.